The morning of May 10th, 1945, somewhere in the Bavarian countryside near Moosburg, Obersturmführer Stefan Keller stands in the ruins of what was once a village square. His SS uniform, stripped of its insignia 3 days ago, hangs loose on his frame. He has not eaten a proper meal in a week. Around him, American soldiers move with purpose, setting up tents, unloading supplies from trucks, organizing the chaos of victory. Stefan watches them and waits for death. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. He is 28 years old. For 6 years he wore the double lightning bolts. He served as a logistics officer at SS headquarters in Munich, managing supply chains and transportation schedules. Never at a concentration camp, never in combat operations, never directly involved in the machinery of genocide. But those distinctions will not matter now. Knows what those runes on his collar meant to these Americans. They meant complicity, they meant guilt, they meant execution. The propaganda had been explicit. British and American forces shot SS personnel on sight. No trials, no questions, just a bullet. Stefan had heard the stories from retreating Wehrmacht soldiers, tales of SS officers lined up against walls, shot without ceremony. Some said the Americans were worse than the Soviets. At least the Russians made it quick. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. Stefan can hear his pulse in his ears. The May sun beats down on rubble. Behind him, a dozen other captured SS officers sit in a cordoned area, their faces hollow with fear. They had surrendered 2 days ago to elements of the American 14th Armored Division. The battle for this region had been brief. The German forces, what remained of them, had no tanks, no artillery, barely any ammunition, just exhausted men who wanted the war to end. He watches an American captain approach. The officer wears mud-stained fatigues and carries a clipboard. His name tape reads Morrison. He looks tired. They all look tired. The war in Europe had officially ended 3 days ago, but that would not save Stefan. Not with his service record, not with the SS on his papers. The captain stops in front of him, studies him with eyes that have seen too much. Stefan forces himself to meet that gaze. If he is going to die, he will die with whatever dignity he has left. "Speak English?" Morrison asks. "Yes, sir," Stefan replies. His voice sounds steadier than he feels. "Good. Name and rank. Obersturmführer Stefan Keller, SS Logistics Division, Munich headquarters." Morrison makes a note on his clipboard. Logistics. "So, you moved supplies?" "Yes, sir." Rail schedules, supply chains, transportation coordination. Ever at a camp? The question hangs in the air. Stefan knows his life depends on the answer, but lying to Americans seems more dangerous than telling the truth. They have files, they have lists, they know things. "No, sir. Strictly administrative. Supply chain management for regular Wehrmacht units in southern Germany." Morrison's expression does not change. He makes another note. "Wait here." Stefan waits. Minutes stretch into an hour. Around him, the village comes into focus. What is left of it? The town had been called Feldkirchen. Population maybe 800 before the war. Now perhaps 300 survivors huddle in basements and damaged buildings. The Americans had taken it without resistance 4 days ago. The Wehrmacht garrison had melted away. The SS training facility 2 kilometers east had been abandoned. An American sergeant approaches with a metal cup. Water, cool and clean. Stefan drinks it slowly, hands shaking. "Take it easy, Fritz," the sergeant says. Not unkindly, just matter of fact. Fritz. The American nickname for German soldiers. But the way this sergeant says it, there is no hatred in it. Just exhaustion and professional distance. Stefan cannot understand it. He looks at the village again. Really looks at it this time. Every building damaged, half the structures completely destroyed. The church steeple has collapsed. The town square, where he now stands, is crater-pitted from artillery. Bodies have been cleared, but bloodstains remain. This was a front line 3 weeks ago. Now it is just rubble and survivors. Captain Morrison returns with another officer. This one is older, maybe 40, with wire-rimmed glasses and the bearing of someone who was not a soldier before this war. His name tape reads Hartman. He carries himself like an academic forced into uniform. Obersturmführer Keller, Hartman says in flawless German. I am Captain Thomas Hartman. I am going to ask you some questions. Answer honestly. We already know most of the answers. We are testing your truthfulness. Stefan nods. Where were you stationed? Munich. SS Administrative Headquarters. Building 4. 3rd floor. Your duties? Transportation logistics. Coordinating rail schedules for military supplies moving through southern Bavaria. Ensuring Wehrmacht units received ammunition, food, fuel. Did you coordinate transportation of prisoners? The question is a trap. Stefan knows it. But the answer is complicated. Once, he says carefully, in 1943, I was ordered to arrange rail transport for a work detail. Labour camp prisoners being moved to an industrial site near Augsburg. I arranged the trains. I did not know their destination until later. Hartman makes a note. One time that I know involved camp prisoners. Most of my work was coordinating supplies for combat units, ammunition, food, medical supplies, fuel. Did you volunteer for the SS? No, sir. I was drafted in 1939. My test scores in mathematics and logistics identified me for administrative placement. The SS controlled logistics in Bavaria. I was assigned there. Hartman studies him for a long moment. Then he nods to Morrison. They step aside and confer in English. Stefan catches fragments. The words administrative, no active participation, and useful reach his ears. Finally, Hartman returns. Obersturmführer Keller, you are a prisoner of war. You will be held according to Geneva Convention standards. You will be fed, given medical care, and processed for eventual repatriation. Stefan blinks. He had expected a bullet. Instead, he is getting Geneva Convention protection. That is all? He manages. Not quite, Hartman says. He gestures to the ruined village. Look around you. What do you see? Destruction, sir. I see 300 German civilians with no homes, no food, no clean water, no medical care. Winter is 8 months away. If we do not rebuild shelter, they will freeze to death. Hartman pauses. You are a logistics officer. You know how to organize resources, how to coordinate work details, how to move supplies efficiently. Stefan does not understand. Sir? We need this village rebuilt, roads cleared, buildings made habitable, water system restored, food distribution organized. The American army is going to provide the resources, but we need someone who speaks German and understands logistics to coordinate with the local population. The implication dawns slowly. You want me to rebuild the village? I want you to organize the reconstruction. You will work under my supervision. You will coordinate local labor. You will ensure supplies are distributed fairly. You will help these civilians survive. Hartman removes his glasses and cleans them. A nervous habit. You can do this, or you can sit in a prisoner of war camp for 2 years waiting for repatriation. Your choice. Stefan looks at the ruins again, at the frightened German civilians watching from damaged doorways, at the American soldiers setting up field kitchens, at the massive logistics operation unfolding. Why? He asks. Why would you trust me? I am SS. You are a logistics officer who got stuck in the wrong organization, Hartman says. I checked your record thoroughly. You moved supplies. You never hurt anybody directly. Now you can move supplies to help people instead of harm them. He puts his glasses back on. Or you can sit in a cage. Your choice. Stefan thinks of the bullet he had expected, the execution that never came, the water the sergeant gave him without cruelty. These Americans make no sense. I will do it, he says. I will help rebuild. Hartman nods. Good. You start tomorrow morning. Report to Lieutenant Morrison at 0600. He will explain your duties. He turns to leave, then stops. Keller, do not make me regret this. You betray this trust. You sabotage the work. You hurt any civilian. And you go straight to a war crimes tribunal. Understand? I understand, sir. That night, Stefan sleeps in a tent with 30 other German prisoners. They get 2 blankets each, a hot meal of something the Americans call beef stew, meat and vegetables in a thick gravy that burns his empty stomach in the most wonderful way. Real coffee, not the acorn substitute they had been drinking for 2 years. Real, actual coffee. An American corporal named Eddie Martinez distributes the food. He jokes with prisoners in broken German. When he sees Stefan's hand still shaking from days of fear and hunger, Eddie pauses. First day is always the worst, buddy, Eddie says in English. You will get used to it. We are not so bad once you know us. Why are you being kind? Stefan asks. We are your enemies. Eddie shrugs. War is over, man. You lost. We won. Now we all have to figure out what comes next. Hating you will not rebuild Europe. That night, Stefan cannot sleep, not from fear anymore, from confusion. Everything he had been told about Americans was wrong. They were not cruel. They were not savages. They fed their prisoners. They followed rules. They offered second chances to men who wore the symbols of evil. Stefan thinks about the village, about 300 civilians who needed shelter before winter, about the logistics of reconstruction, rail schedules, supply chains, resource allocation, the same skills he used to support the Wehrmacht, now used to save lives instead of taking them. He thinks about Captain Hartman's offer, a chance to rebuild instead of rot in a cage, a chance to prove he was more than the worst uniform he ever wore. The next morning, Lieutenant Morrison gives Stefan his assignment. The village needs everything: roads cleared of rubble, buildings assessed for structural safety, a clean water source identified and secured, food distribution organized, shelter prioritized for the elderly and families with children. Morrison provides maps, supply manifests, and a work schedule. You will coordinate local labor, Morrison explains. The civilians can work. We provide the supplies. You organize the logistics. Every morning, 0600, you report progress. Every evening, 1800, you submit the next day's plan. Clear? Clear, sir. One more thing. Morrison hands Stefan an armband. It reads, Reconstruction Coordinator, in English and German. You wear this at all times. It identifies you as working under American authority. Any soldier sees you without it. They can shoot you as an escaping prisoner. Understand? Yes, sir. Stefan puts on the armband. It feels strange. 3 weeks ago, he wore SS insignia. Now he wears American authorization. The world has turned upside down. He walks into the village. German civilians watch him with suspicion. They recognize him from the surrender. They know he was SS. But they also see the American armband. They see Morrison watching from 50 meters away. They understand that Stefan has American backing. An elderly woman approaches. She is maybe 60, dressed in patched clothing, her face lined with hunger and grief. Are you here to help us? She asks in German. Her voice wavers with desperate hope. Yes, Stefan says. I am here to coordinate reconstruction. We need to clear the roads first, then assess which buildings can be salvaged, then organize shelter assignments. She starts crying. Thank God someone is doing something. Stefan organizes his first work detail. 20 German men, ages 16 to 55, the survivors capable of physical labor. They start clearing rubble from the main road. American engineers provide tools, shovels, pickaxes, wheelbarrows. Stefan coordinates the effort, directing men to different sections, ensuring efficient progress. By noon, the main road is passable. Trucks can now enter the village centre. Morrison inspects the work and nods approval. Good work, Keller. Keep it up. The afternoons Stefan spends assessing buildings. He walks through the village with an American engineer, a sergeant named Williams who speaks no German but understands structural integrity. They mark buildings with coloured paint, green for habitable, yellow for repairable, red for condemned. 70% of the structures are yellow or red. But 30% can house people immediately. That means shelter for maybe 200. The other 100 will need temporary housing until repairs are complete. Stefan creates a priority list. Families with children first, then elderly, then single adults. He submits it to Morrison, who approves it without changes. "You are good at this, Keller," Morrison says. "You should have been an engineer instead of SS." Stefan does not know how to respond to that, so he just nods and continues working. By the end of the first week, the village has a functioning road system. Clean water flows from a repaired well. American supplies, rice and beans and canned meat arrive daily. Stefan organizes distribution, ensures no family goes hungry, coordinates with local women who cook communal meals. The civilians begin to trust him. They see him working 18-hour days. They see him coordinating fairly. They see American soldiers treating him with professional respect, not cruelty. They start asking him questions, making suggestions, participating in the reconstruction. A young German woman named Anna Ritter approaches him one evening. She is maybe 25, a widow whose husband died on the Eastern Front. She works in the communal kitchen. "Herr Keller," she says, "the children need school. They have not had lessons in months. Can we organize classes?" Stefan had not thought about education. His focus had been on immediate survival, shelter, food, water. But she is right. Life needs to continue beyond mere survival. "I will discuss it with Captain Hartman," Stefan says. Hartman approves the idea immediately. Excellent thinking. Education shows these people they have a future. "Do it." Stefan coordinates with Anna to organize a makeshift school. They use the least damaged classroom in the former schoolhouse. American soldiers donate paper and pencils from their own supplies. Anna recruits 3 other women as teachers. Within a week, 40 children attend classes. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. The transformation is remarkable. Children who had spent months in basements, terrified and hungry, now attend school. They learn reading, arithmetic, history. They laugh during recess. They return to being children instead of war survivors. Captain Hartman visits the school one afternoon. He watches the children reciting multiplication tables. He turns to Stefan. "This is how you rebuild a country," Hartman says. "Not with bullets, with schools, with hope." By the end of the second week, Stefan has organized the reconstruction of 12 buildings. The village has a functioning bakery again, a small medical clinic staffed by a German doctor and American medics. The church is being repaired. Services resume on Sunday, attended by both German civilians and some American soldiers who are Catholic. Stefan attends the service. He sits in the back, not sure if he belongs. The priest, Father Ernst, a man in his 60s who survived the war by staying quiet and keeping his head down, delivers a sermon about forgiveness and redemption. "We have all sinned," Father Ernst says. "We have all failed. But God offers us a chance to rebuild, to become better than we were, to choose mercy over hatred." After the service, Father Ernst approaches Stefan. "I know who you were, Stefan. I know the uniform you wore, but I see what you are doing now. Rebuilding instead of destroying, helping instead of harming. That is redemption. Stefan does not feel redeemed. He feels like a man trying to outrun his past by working 18 hours a day, but he nods and thanks the priest. In the third week, Captain Hartman assigns Stefan a more complex task. 3 nearby villages need similar reconstruction efforts. Can Stefan train local coordinators? Can he create a system that works without constant American supervision? Stefan develops a manual, a step-by-step guide for reconstruction logistics, priority assessment, resource allocation, work detail coordination, supply distribution. He trains 5 German civilians, men with administrative experience, to serve as coordinators in their own villages. Morrison reviews the manual and is impressed. This is good work, Keller. Really good. We could use this across Bavaria. The thought startles Stefan. His logistics manual, developed for one village, might help thousands of people across the region. The skills he used to support the SS war effort, now repurposed to rebuild civilization. By late May, Feldkirchen is almost functional again. Not perfect, not undamaged, but livable. The population has increased to 400 as refugees from other areas hear about the American reconstruction efforts and migrate there. Stefan coordinates housing for them, ensures the food supply scales appropriately, maintains order without force, just organization and fair distribution. One evening, Stefan sits on the edge of the repaired fountain in the village square. The Americans have gotten it working again. Clean water flows from the stone spout. Children play nearby. Women carry buckets home. Men sit on benches, discussing plans to rebuild the town hall. Lieutenant Morrison joins him. Hands Stefan a cigarette. They smoke in silence for a moment. "You have done good work here, Keller," Morrison says. "Better than good. You have given these people hope." "I am just organizing logistics, sir. The same work I did during the war." "No," Morrison says. "During the war, you organized destruction. Now you organize creation. That is the difference." Stefan thinks about that. The same skills, opposite purposes. The difference between supporting a war machine and building a civilization. "Why did you give me this chance?" Stefan asks. "You could have executed me, or left me in a cage." Morrison exhales smoke, because Captain Hartman believes in something. He believes that how we treat defeated enemies matters, that mercy is not weakness, that giving people a second chance creates better outcomes than revenge. Do you believe that? Morrison is quiet for a moment. "I do now. I have seen what you have done here. I have seen Germans who hated Americans 3 weeks ago now working with us. I have seen children going to school instead of starving in rubble. I have seen hope replace despair." He looks at Stefan. "You did that, not us. We provided the resources, but you organized it. You made it real." Stefan feels something shift inside him. Not quite redemption, but maybe the first step toward it. By early June 1945, American occupation policy is becoming clearer. Germany will be divided into zones. Denazification will be implemented. War criminals will be prosecuted. But the vast majority of Germans, the ones who were just following orders or got swept up in the madness, will be given a chance to rebuild. Stefan is part of that vast majority, an SS officer who never fired a shot, who managed supply chains instead of committing atrocities, who is now using those same skills to help his country recover. Captain Hartman calls him to the American command post one morning. Stefan enters expecting another assignment. Instead, he finds Hartman with several senior officers, including a colonel named Davidson who commands the regional occupation force. Obersturmführer Keller, Colonel Davidson says in English, which Hartman translates, "We have been reviewing your work. You have successfully coordinated reconstruction in Feldkirchen. You have trained local coordinators for 3 other villages. You have created a logistics manual that we are now distributing across the Bavarian region." Stefan nods, uncertain where this is going. "We want to expand this program," Davidson continues. There are over 100 villages in this sector that need similar reconstruction. We need coordinators who understand German culture, speak the language, and can organize logistics effectively. We want you to train them. The magnitude of the assignment hits Stefan. Training coordinators for 100 villages, creating a reconstruction network across Bavaria, using his SS administrative skills to rebuild an entire region. I accept, sir, Stefan says, and so Stefan's role expands. He is no longer just rebuilding one village, he is creating a system to rebuild a region. He travels to different American command posts, trains German coordinators, shares his manual, troubleshoots problems, and reports back to Captain Hartman on progress. Everywhere he goes, he sees the same pattern. Initial suspicion from German civilians, fear of Americans, despair about the future. Then, as reconstruction begins, hope returns. Children attend school, families have shelter, communities start to heal. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. But Stefan also sees the complexity of post-war Germany. Some villages welcome American help, others resist. Some Germans want to move forward, others cling to Nazi ideology. Some local leaders cooperate with reconstruction, others sabotage it. In one village near Augsburg, Stefan encounters a former Wehrmacht major named Heinrich Vogel, who tries to undermine the reconstruction effort. Vogel spreads rumors that Americans are poisoning the food, that they plan to starve Germans, that reconstruction is a trap. Stefan confronts him directly. The war is over, Heinrich. We lost. Now we either work with the Americans to rebuild, or we condemn our people to starvation and chaos. Which do you choose? Vogel spits on the ground. I choose German pride, not collaboration with the enemy. Pride will not feed children, Stefan says. Pride will not repair houses. Pride will not prevent people from freezing next winter. What will you do? Let them die to preserve your pride. The argument attracts a crowd. German civilians listen. They are tired of ideology. They want food, shelter, hope. They turn away from Vogel and towards Stefan's reconstruction plan. Vogel leaves the village. Stefan never sees him again. By July 1945, Stefan has trained 43 reconstruction coordinators across Bavaria. The network is functioning. Villages are rebuilding. The American Occupation Authority is so impressed they create an official position, Regional Reconstruction Coordinator. Stefan Keller is the first appointment. He receives a formal letter from Colonel Davidson, translated into German by Captain Hartman. It praises his work. It notes his transformation from SS logistics officer to civilian, reconstruction leader. It states that his service to the German people will be noted in his repatriation file. That last part matters. When Stefan eventually returns to civilian life, that letter will help him find work. It will distinguish him from other former SS officers. It will show he cooperated with occupation authorities, that he chose reconstruction over resistance. But more than the practical benefits, the letter represents something else. Validation. A recognition that he is more than the worst uniform he wore, that his skills have value beyond destruction, that redemption is possible even for men who served evil. Stefan keeps the letter. He will carry it with him for the rest of his life. By August, the reconstruction network is largely self-sustaining. German coordinators know their roles. American supply chains are efficient. Villages are functional again. Stefan's role shifts from active coordination to oversight and troubleshooting. Captain Hartman calls him to headquarters one morning. Stefan enters to find Hartman packing his personal effects. The war is over, Hartman explains. I am going home, back to Yale, back to teaching literature to students who have no idea what war actually means. He looks at Stefan. You will work with my replacement, Captain Anderson. Good man. He knows your record. He will continue supporting the reconstruction effort. Thank you, sir, Stefan says. For everything. For seeing me as more than my uniform. For giving me a chance to rebuild instead of rot. Hartman extends his hand. Stefan stares at it. An American Army captain is offering to shake hands with a former SS officer. He takes it. "Write to me," Hartman says. "After the war, after you go home. Let me know how Germany turns out. Let me know if all this reconstruction actually works." "I will, sir." They shake hands. Then Hartman leaves. Stefan never sees him again, but they will correspond for 30 years. In May 1945, SS officer Stefan Keller surrendered to American forces in Bavaria, expecting execution. Instead, Captain Thomas Hartman made a remarkable decision. He gave Stefan a shovel and assigned him to rebuild the very village where he'd been captured. What followed was an extraordinary transformation. Stefan threw himself into reconstruction with relentless dedication, working 18-hour days to restore homes, organize food distribution, and prepare villages for the harsh German winter. His organizational skills, once used in service of evil, became tools for healing and rebuilding. When the Nuremberg trials revealed the full horror of the Holocaust, Stefan was devastated. The knowledge of what the regime he served had done transformed his work from mere duty into penance. Every family housed became an act of atonement. Every village rebuilt, a rejection of Nazi ideology. Stefan's reconstruction methods became so successful that his manual was translated into English and adopted across multiple occupation zones. After his release in February 1946, he continued this work for 44 years, eventually becoming Director of Reconstruction for the Stuttgart region. He married Anna Ritter, a widow he'd worked with during Reconstruction, and raised 3 children, never hiding his past but showing them how he tried to make amends. His friendship with Captain Hartman lasted 3 decades, a testament to how enemies can become allies through mercy and mutual respect. Stefan died in 1989, having spent 44 years rebuilding what 6 years of service to evil had helped destroy. His story proves that redemption is possible, that mercy can be more powerful than revenge, and that people can change if given the chance. If you found Stefan's story of transformation compelling, please subscribe to our channel for more powerful historical narratives that reveal the complexity of human nature and the possibility of redemption.